He is drugged, strapped loosely into a chair inside a KGB dacha, and he already knows exactly what is happening to him. Two senior KGB officers sit across the table from him, patient, waiting quietly and confidently for the drug to finish its work. His vision blurs badly at the edges, but somewhere underneath, his training refuses to blur along with it. This is Colonel Oleg Gordievsky, one of the most senior and deeply trusted officers inside the entire Soviet KGB. A double life. For well over a decade already, he has also secretly been a working spy for British intelligence. Now Moscow clearly suspects something, and no one in this small room will tell him exactly how much they actually know. 5 hours of questions. No real confession ever comes, because there is simply nothing left inside a drugged, exhausted mind still willing to give one. Inexplicably, impossibly, at the very end of it all, they simply let him walk out the door. He went home and started planning a jog. 3 months earlier, Oleg Gordievsky had been the KGB's rising star, sent to quietly run the entire London station. Groomed carefully by his superiors since the mid-1970s to eventually take command of one of the KGB's most sensitive foreign stations. What his own service never once suspected, not for a moment, he had already been quietly recruited by MI6. The recruitment itself was slow and deliberate, built patiently over months of careful, deniable conversation on neutral foreign soil. For over a decade after that, he quietly fed London the KGB's most closely guarded secrets. In November of 1983, NATO quietly ran a war game codenamed Able Archer, and Moscow was watching every single move of it. Kremlin analysts began to read the entire training drill as cover for a real, imminent first strike. Gordievsky's urgent warning reached London within days, faster than any satellite pass or signal intercept could possibly confirm it. He may have single-handedly talked 2 nuclear powers back from the edge of an accidental war. He personally briefed Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher on exactly how to read Mikhail Gorbachev and the men closest around him. But inside the CIA, on the other side of the Atlantic, someone was already quietly selling names for hard cash. Someone had talked. The likely source, investigators would later conclude, CIA officer Aldrich Ames, trading Soviet secrets for a steady stream of cash. Gordievsky's own name reached a desk deep inside Moscow long before he himself ever suspected that it truly had. May 16, 1985, a routine telegram arrives from Moscow, ordering him home from London without any real explanation. The excuse written on the page is purely procedural. The timing sitting underneath it is anything but that. For one long, sleepless night, he privately weighs the odds of a trap against the odds of a genuinely routine recall. He boards the return flight anyway, because openly refusing the order would only confirm every last lingering suspicion at once. He lands in Moscow on May 19th, and no one waiting at the airport greets him as an ally anymore. Colleagues who once smiled warmly at him in the corridors now stand a half step too far away, eyes fixed elsewhere. Then comes the quiet car ride that is not quite an arrest, and somehow not quite anything else either. The dacha again, unmistakably. The tea again, steaming quietly in front of him on that exact same worn table. A drug moves slowly and deliberately through his system, and the entire room begins to tilt sideways around him. For 5 straight hours, they methodically take him apart piece by piece, and still find nothing solid left to hold. So finally, without explanation, they release him, back into an apartment that was already quietly wired for sound. He is essentially a dead man on a delay now, and somewhere deep down inside, he already fully knows it. But dead men can still run, if somebody out there in London still remembers the old plan. In 1978, 7 full years before any of this ever happened, MI6 had quietly built him a possible way out. Its architect, MI6 officer Veronica Price. The plan itself sat completely untouched for years, a key cut carefully for a door that might never actually need opening. Now, with a watcher posted on every single corner of his daily life, it is the only door left to him. The signal: stand near one particular Moscow bread shop at exactly 7:30 in the evening and simply wait. Hold an ordinary Safeway shopping bag, plain, foreign, and instantly out of place, on a street exactly like that one. MI6 confirms safe receipt with a man calmly eating a Mars bar, carrying a Harrods bag as he walks past him. No words pass between the two men, no contact at all, only two pairs of eyes meeting for an instant. That single glance means exactly one thing, and only one thing on this entire earth: we are finally coming for you. For long weeks, he waits patiently by the bread shop at 7:30, and night after night, absolutely no one comes. Every day of silence now is one more day closer to a cell, or to something far worse than a cell. Then, finally, on an ordinary evening like any other before it, the Mars bar, the Harrods bag, the glance. Friday, July 19th, 1985. The day it either happens now, or it never happens at all. Under constant KGB surveillance every hour since the dacha, he needs exactly one clean gap of time in which to move. He laces up his running shoes carefully and steps outside for what looks like an entirely ordinary evening jog through the city. His KGB tail keeps pace half a block behind, bored, certain of the route, certain of the man he is following. At a blind corner just up ahead, he doesn't slow down at all. He simply, instantly disappears from view. He's gone. He changes clothes fast inside a narrow alley, then walks back out, calm, unhurried, toward the distant train station. A train heads north, toward Leningrad, and further still, toward the quiet border town of Vyborg. He watches his own faint reflection in the dark window glass and barely recognizes the strange calm sitting inside it. Off the train now, and into the forest, moving quietly on foot toward a lay-by just off the main road. 2 cars are already waiting there in the dark forest, engines cold, British diplomatic plates fixed on both of them. Inside, 2 diplomats' wives sit perfectly calm and composed, dressed for a picnic that was never actually going to happen. He steps out slowly from the tree line, and for one full second, absolutely no one in the entire clearing moves. The careful hands reach down and quietly open the boot of one of the 2 waiting cars in total silence. He curls himself tightly inside the small space, and a thermal blanket is pulled close over his entire body. The boot closed. Behind them, a second car quietly pulls out to run interference on the empty road just ahead. Ahead of them now, somewhere out there in the dark, the checkpoint marking the Finnish border itself. Inside the cramped boot, the heat builds fast, and so does the constant engine noise pressing down hard above him. Floodlights sweep slowly across the queue ahead, throwing hard white light across every windshield in the line. A gloved hand eases the gear stick into park as the car rolls to a full stop in the queue. A border guard walks slowly down the entire line of cars with a German shepherd on a short leash. The dog's nose drops low to the gravel, working steadily and methodically toward the boot with the hidden man inside. Inside the car, a diplomat's wife calmly opens her door without hesitation and steps out into the harsh floodlight. In her hand, something small, something soiled, something no border dog on earth wants to smell twice. She drops the small, dirty nappy onto the gravel below and turns back calmly toward the car, completely unhurried, The dog recoils instantly at the sharp smell and flatly refuses to go anywhere near the car again. Dogs, everywhere. A guard leans down anyway and slowly checks the diplomatic papers through the open car window. In the boot, every single muscle stays locked completely still, because one wrong sound now undoes 7 years of careful planning. The seconds stretch out into something that no longer feels like ordinary time passing at all anymore. Then he finally straightens up, hands back the papers without another word, and waves the car forward through the gate. The barrier lifts. The car rolls slowly forward, onto a forest road, into Finland itself, into the night of July 19th to the 20th. In the boot, the man finally breathes freely for the first time as a genuinely free man in years. In distant Moscow, a closed court sentences him to death in a trial he will never once personally attend. MI6 later calls him their most valuable source inside the KGB in a generation. In London, not long after, he sits down and personally briefs Ronald Reagan on the man now running the Kremlin. He briefs Thatcher once again too, this time as a man with absolutely nothing left to hide from anyone. He settles quietly into Godalming, Surrey, living out his days under a protective guard that never fully leaves him alone. In 2007, more than 2 decades later, the Queen names him a Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. He dies peacefully on March 4th, 2025, at the age of 86, in England, still a completely free man. But before the medals, and long before the death sentence, there was only ever one man in running shoes. The most damaging escape in KGB history started with one ordinary man, alone, in a pair of running shoes,